Greetings and salutations, travelers. Welcome back to the Inn of Planar Crossroads. And, as always, welcome back to our Around the Hearth discussions. We have been discussing this whole month of April, which we have been calling April Arcanum. Low fantasy is kind of the theme. And we've been discussing first low fantasy and low magic. Then we discussed low fantasy and high magic. Then we discussed rare magic. And now we are on to our final discussion of dangerous magic. So, before we dive into that nasty little subject, let's do our announcements. I'm Adam L. Spain with the Inn of Planar Crossroads. You can support the Inn of Planar Crossroads on Patreon, Subscribestar, Locals, or just by contacting us directly. And doing so gets you access to our Discord, where we share any kind of content that we make that is not video content, like a Fallout Fort Smith map we shared last year, or a chicken races that we shared last year, as well as any doodles and arts, and people can put things in there that they'd like to discuss and meet up with things. So that's what we've got, and our main goal for this time, for this current milestone, is to reach $100 per month of any of those areas cumulative support, so that we can then do our giveaway of probably a sum shot, multi-shot thing, but also, if we get there, some custom dice. And perhaps if we overshoot our goal of $100 enough, we will do some metal dice. So there we go. That is what I have. Let's actually go clockwise this time. So clockwise from me would be Josh.
That's me. Josh here from Copper Dragon Games. I'm typically out here on YouTube talking about role-playing games, usually centering on 5e and virtual tabletop resources. I'll be taking a swing at my own 5e clone pretty soon. Should already be out by the time you see this video. And I'm just super excited to be here and chat about dangerous magic, and hopefully we don't get caught up into it too much in this chat. We'll have to make our saving throws for sure for half damage.
Hey, I've got a feat if it's mental damage, then it's null. All right, Dan.
Tag, I'm it. Dan from Avenue Studios. You can find us on YouTube, Rumble, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. Our biggest thing right now is Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern. We live stream. We are currently in the Savage World campaign. We're running about a 10-session game, Knights of New Seattle, in the Fallout video game setting. And of course, for these themed months we're doing for the year, we are running a Forest Forge show where we build a one-shot in Foundry Virtual Tabletop based off of some of the ideas we discuss each month on Around the Hearth, and then at the end of the month we play test it with some of our patron and local supporters as the players in that game. So of course, if you want to support us, you can get in on that action. And I'm also very excited to discuss some dangerous magic, and I have some thoughts to start the chat off from Jacob, who unfortunately couldn't make it tonight, but he's very excited. You'll catch him on Forest Forge over on our channel building that Foundry game. So let's do this.
All right. And that means with our announcements done, we would be to our Shoutout. And he was here with the first two chats, but he's not here this chat, so we're going to shout him out. And that is
over at DM Tales. He went in most recently working on some Arcan Forge information about how to get that to work properly for games. On his Patreon, he will run one-shots for people. I think mostly for newbies. I believe Easy D6 is a system he really enjoys introducing new players to. And we had a good chat with him to start off, so I think you should check out his channel.
Indeed. So good deal. And with that done, that means announcements are done. That means the spotlight's done. And it means that it's time to gather around the hearth. Warm your feet by the fire. Grab your preferred beverage. and join us as we discuss dangerous magic in a low fantasy setting. So, Dan wanted to start us off with Jacob's thoughts, who would have been here with us today, but real life stuff. So,
real life stuff. Speaking of low fantasy settings, his big thing, for those who know Jacob well, won't be a surprise. And Adam actually touched on this slightly in the last video, so check that out and watch where he pokes at this, because it kind of matches rare and or dangerous, which I'm sure we'll get into in this discussion. His biggest thing was magic through items, especially by harvesting stuff from monsters that you hunt. That was the thing he was very interested in us discussing. So monsters that have some kind of magical property, obviously dragons, unicorn horns, fairy wings, pixie dust, all of the above. Going into sci-fi, there could be some kind of alien creatures or even rogue AI robots. I'm starting to really try to think outside the box. That's what you guys have really helped me with this chat too. What is it? Horizon Dawn, something like that even could be a
Horizon Zero Dawn
setting. Horizon Zero Dawn, thank you. But that idea of, he loves the Monster Hunter stuff. And that idea of going in, that could keep it low fantasy, but either high or low magic. Easily. Yeah. But dangerous, obviously, to get what you need. You got to be able to keep what you kill.
Yeah, I love that concept of like, even if the magic itself, once you have it, is not necessarily dangerous, like you have earned it because you had to go through the dangerous thing, through the hunting process, to achieve it. And then if maybe the magic itself is also dangerous. Maybe you're crafting a potion from those components and you're not sure if it's gonna work exactly the way the recipe says it will, because maybe dragon magic is unpredictable. I don't know, but that's I do like the Monster Hunter concept in dangerous magic, bringing more danger to magic in a setting, in a campaign.
That's a cool idea too, that even once you get it, it's still dangerous. Like, not only do you have to go kill the monster, but even the way you're gonna butcher and gut and extract these things also determines whether maybe the magic will work or not. I actually think in Destiny, the video game, you have to go get that eye at one point, but they're not sure if it's gonna work, because when you remove it, it's lost its power. You have to remove it correctly. I'm expanding a little bit on the lore from the actual game, but to actually go in, remove it correctly so that the power remains in there and you haven't accidentally erased the memory banks that you need to access, but you can't access it until you remove it from the whole mech. That's a cool idea, to add layers of danger to the magic. And then even if you get all the items, if you don't put it together right or do everything right, it still blow up.
Yeah.
I do like, I also enjoy the idea of doing the whole magic, or at least the things necessary to make magic, are important and come from a natural place. Like the way that wands work or things like that in the Harry Potter universe, where you have the wood and the core being important, and only certain wood trees are magical and stuff like that. That all works well. And then the dragon heartstring, or kelpie hair, or unicorn hair, or what was the other? Phoenix tail feather. Those are those are some of them. And the idea that you can use those things to make items that are powerful, and what you use makes a difference, and even says something about the character, or reacts with the character, has a personality of its own. Those are fun things to do. And as a shout out to a specific thing that works well for that, Into the Weird and Wild. I showed this to Dan when I was up there. This is a souvenir from buying up there. They have a lot of neat creatures and rules, simple rules to incorporate into an existing game if you want to, on harvesting. So it's definitely something I'm looking at when thinking about those type of games. So those Monster Hunter-esque type of games. There's also the idea, there's lots of ways you can make magic dangerous. You can do the stuff we talked about in rare magic, like making it about a time that is particularly there, and doing it outside of that time we talked about, being outside of those constraints makes it wild or dangerous. That might be a way you can incorporate both rare and dangerous magic, because there is the idea of, is magic dangerous and that's why it's not practiced, or is magic dangerous and rare and that's why it's not practiced? The idea that it could be both, or it could be just one, because rare magic isn't necessarily dangerous magic, it's just rare. But dangerous magic would be rare because fewer people would want to mess around with it. It would actually give an in-world explanation in a low fantasy setting on why people don't mess with it. It's one of the reasons in Conan why they don't mess with it, because it is bad news and it will go wrong easy. So you have this there for you as a not a constraint to the magic, but as a aspect of consideration for your players. So that's a way you can do that. And that goes into like, sure, you want to summon a demon to make a deal, huh?
I was just
meet him at the
thinking that.
Crossroads, right?
Yes.
Another supernatural reference.
Shit.
Hey, that's not fair, because like Supernatural was referencing things that we're referencing a reference. So, you know, just because it was doesn't mean it was, you know. So, demon deals are deals with anything outside yourself, even Fae would be
Fae, I was thinking too.
a way to work this. So,
because then the other fun thing with Fae too is, like, with the demon and making those deals, a lot of expectations. The players will have a lot of assumptions coming to it with, and you kind of know at a meta level what you're getting into. With the Fae, there's always that aspect of chaos. It might not necessarily be directly bad, like the demon gets your soul, but it could be a changeling, now your child, or your firstborn, you know, Rumpelstiltskin takes your firstborn son, sort of thing. Like, who knows?
It could be you are now forced to take their firstborn, if we want to
right.
invert that. And if you don't treat them well enough on the journey, so like now you've got a kid to protect, you got cool magic, like you did the thing.
That's interesting. That's really cool.
The what is it? The World of Darkness setting, the World of Darkness games has Changeling, which is exactly that type of thing, where you're the Changeling. You're the thing that was brought into the world from the Fae side, or I'm not sure what they call it.
So, okay. From the realm of Arcadia.
Okay.
There's another word for the in-between traveling point. You actually were a human.
Okay.
At least in the most recent ones. But you were brought over to there, and you were changed by existing there as the plaything of a great fae. And you've come back with quirks and powers, and there's a replica of you who, if it ever meets you, would want to kill you.
Yeah.
That's not creepy at all.
Yeah, you know.
I mean, it is a World of Darkness system,
Yes.
so kind of comes with the buy-in.
I think we can also play around with how Mage works from World of Darkness. So Mage enforces magic being rare and dangerous. Kind of on their own, so it's rare in the literal sense that only so many people awaken as mages. And that's the phrasing. It's dangerous in that the magic wants to stay... It's unknown as well, because the magic itself wants to stay hidden. The more dreamers who are around when you do it, the more likely the magic will backlash at you. There's also, if your magic cannot be explained away as a weird coincidence, it's called vulgar, and that also makes it more likely. And the more powerful of a mage you are, the more likely it is to backlash on you, because you are warping the world more. And, like, the world wants to stay as it is, it wants magic to stay hidden, and it gets mad at you if you change that. It can curse you, make you go mad, make giant spell effects, which is an ironic one for the fact that it's trying to stay hidden, but, you know, it was a cool punishment to a character.
It's kind of like, might be like a wave crashing against this, two waves crashing together, the magic that wants to stay and the magic that is changing it. So the two tsunamis smash together and there's magic, bad stuff.
Yeah. So, there are actually groups in Mage the Awakening who wish to awaken the populace as a whole, because they believe that once everyone has access to magic, it'll be some format of utopia, and they'll reconnect with the Atlanteans. And
oh, interesting.
There are other groups who feel like normies can't be trusted with magic, so we must do everything within our power to keep them from finding out. But anyway,
clearly, normies can't be trusted.
Yeah,
I think that's baseline fact, right?
Right. But some people want to change normies into non-normies.
Oh, well, that's just wrong.
Yeah. But I think the core thing is that, like, these concepts of this can really intermingle. Like, it is rare in the first place. Yeah. And then those who have it, for whom it is dangerous to use, and then even more dangerous to use in public, in a sense. So it, like, really reinforces this, it forces the rest of the world to stay low fantasy still, by throwing, like, a lot of otherwise limits on the sources and uses of the magic.
I guess that's something we haven't touched on specifically, is that you can make it where in your setting, the equilibrium itself has an intention to stay as it is. Like, it's not necessarily, oaths of secrecy and muggles and wizards living separate because of the decrees. It's that the magic, the magic itself is hidden and desires to stay hidden, like it has its own will. Vancian magic, originally in the Vance stories, magic was something living that you took out and put into your mind, and you stored it there, and then after you used it, it was gone. And then you had to recapture it through study and, you know, all the things and memorization. And you recapture it the next time in order to use it. That's why you prepared spells. There was this mental aspect to it, and those were living things-ish. So there is that idea that you could play with in your setting if you want to make it that way. And that does lead into another thing you can do that we've been alluding to a little bit, the use of items, but specifically intelligent items. Where perhaps doing something with magic, you impart an intelligence, a will, not necessarily an intelligence, but a will into that thing through its creation. And the avenue of its creation determines the power level of the will, the aim that it has, you know, all the things that you would do for an intelligent item in its creation is all determined by whether it's the material or the time or the place or all of that. And you can play with this fun crafting idea and say, okay, this was made, the One Ring was made in the fires of Mount Doom, and it was evil because Sauron poured his will to dominate all life into it. And it had a part of him in it. That's why it acted like a phylactery. So
you made me think of, too, sticking with Lord of the Rings, is I can't remember who originally made it, but Turin-Turinbar's black sword that, because of its history being made by that one dark elf and where it was passed along, everyone said, you know, very much a low fantasy setting in this case of it's not overt magic, low fantasy, low magic. It's not overt magic, but the sword over time just had this will to kill, and whoever bore that sword would eventually kill someone they cared about, and it just happened over and over again until finally it comes to Turinbar, who kills himself on the sword, and the sword actually speaks at the end of that story. If you follow that sword story, and it speaks and says, your story's so evil that even I want to consume you now. That's a really cool way to have that, where how the magic is used also there's gonna be an effect on it. So of course, cursed items being a way to do dangerous magic. That any magic always comes with a price, and it's always a negative price of some kind. And the other one I thought of too was life drain, just the classic of to do magic you have to draw life from somewhere, and so, you know, mighty mages will actually decimate an entire ecosystem where they are because they're just drawing life to do these crazy things.
Like
it could be
the Dark Sun.
Dark Sun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Burn the witch. The witch will blight your crops.
Yeah, but I mean, in that setting, they actually do. That magic is that dangerous. That's why no one uses magic. That's why their world is dying. And the Dragon Lords, well, the Dragon Lord, there's only one left, I think.
That sounds right, yeah.
He's the only Sorcerer King that does magic now. Because if you do magic, you are ostracized. They don't want magic. They don't want people doing magic. They want to stay low fantasy because the cost is so high. You're literally consuming the world around you. And the thing is, this Sorcerer King probably will just teleport away somewhere. Gate away eventually. Leave him on a dead world after it's done.
Yeah.
Well, in that setting, they do have... Like, there's still mages running around doing magic. They just call them defilers. And they're, like you said, ostracized. But they are... It's the quote-unquote bad guys. They're almost obviously bad in that setting. They're meaningfully destroying the environment around them for their own gain.
Yeah, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's it's a great setting too, because thinking that the final evil will eventually, he doesn't care, because once the world's ended, he'll just use the life force of everyone on the planet, kill them all to do this great magic that teleports him to another planet or another realm of existence where he can just start over again.
You can just start over fresh on another inhabitable planet. What does he care?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't even have to be habitable. He could just make it habitable with a proper amount of time and spells.
I think...
Go ahead. You're good.
I would find it very interesting. So this would be better for a story or prequel than it would be for your actual campaign. But the idea that the Dragon Lord had waited and waited, decided it was too far gone, tried to do the great magic, and the spell fizzled because there wasn't enough life left.
Yeah.
For the one final spell.
He miscalculated.
Yeah, I like that. I also like the idea of you have this dangerous magic, but your BBG, your big bad villain, is the one person that it's not dangerous for. That they get to take advantage of it and not be harmed, but anybody else who gets to play, who tries to play in that sandbox, is doomed or has to pay for it in some way.
It's because they got life.
That is kind of the...
Because I've cast lifesteal on everybody on the planet. Just cheating!
Yes.
Well, I mean, you know, if you do time magic, if you do sigil magic, and someone puts a sigil on themselves for undead, not to die, basically, have enough time to do what I'm about to say. Make a sigil that runs on all the ley lines or make one on each of the points of the ley lines of the planet, they could literally cast a spell on the whole planet. And that would be interesting.
I feel like the easy campaign hook is that they've got like 3 ley lines left.
Something like that. That would be a very nice way to do dangerous magic and trying to solve it.
Well, what if the PC's plan is just to co-opt that and instead of the bad magic, they're gonna cast prestidigitation on every ley line nexus and just clean it all up.
It would be interesting.
That's the end game. Cast prestidigitation at the ley line nexus to clean up the whole world.
Well,
That's interesting.
There's a funny thing you can do with magic, because maybe part of the reason that it's rare in this, going back to rare, is that everything has to be just right. And if something simple disturbs it, then you have wild, dangerous magic. And that can mean it's dangerous, because if something as simple as a prestidigitation spell could wipe away a sigil, then setting up something very big with sigil magic would take a Machiavellian type of individual to organize all of that and get it just right. Imagine if the big BBEG's plan is not to destroy the players, but use them to set up each of the components correctly in their correct spot. We have to return this to the museum. The museum sits on a ley line. We must return this to the cathedral in this other city. The cathedral's on a ley line. We must do this, we must do that. And then all of a sudden, well done. Well done. That would be a nice way to work that.
Yeah.
Patron turning arch villain.
Yep.
And what are they going to suspect? It's some rich dude that hired them to hunt down magical artifacts or something. Why do they care? They're getting paid, right? They're low-level adventurers. But the evil guy knows if he goes and does it, it attracts attention. If he just hires somebody, or he encourages behind the scenes the museum curator to hire them, and he encourages or name drops them to the high bishop at the cathedral to hire them, and he's just the bartender at the local tavern, the owner of the local tavern. Sure, he's got, a board with things on it that have quests. People can go do them. Just ends out. So, big bad evil guy can use dangerous magic without using dangerous magic.
Mm-hmm.
Because if something bad happens, he just gets somebody else to do it. So
that's clever too.
All right. Because then he needs those souls to do soul magic. Because soul magic is dangerous. So,
as always.
As always.
I mean, you don't want to give up your own.
Of course not.
You want to rule the
That'd be
world. How are you going to
silly.
do that if you give up your soul? I mean, come on now.
Well, and you gotta test the spell out a good couple of times to make sure it works right before you ever even think about using your soul in one.
Right.
That too.
And that's why it's dangerous. In the end, the only way to have ultimate control is to give up one's own soul.
There you go.
Right? Like, how do you become a lich if you don't move your own soul into a phylactery?
Exactly.
Sure.
So you test out the soul trap spell on these other things, right? It's just logical.
Right.
You're just a logical villain. That's all you are.
Well, you convince all these people that they want to become a lich.
Yeah. You don't tell
and
them.
that you'll help them.
But you make sure not to tell them all the drawbacks. You make sure not to tell them all the weaknesses. You got to keep some info back as the big BBEG.
Oh yeah. I mean, good sales.
Phallic.
Never tells. Yes.
All right. Let me see. we're getting pretty close to time. So, I'll do last final thought this time. So let's start at Josh, then Dan, then Levi, then me.
Cool.
Okay. All right, so closing thoughts on dangerous magic. I would just say, first of all, I love the idea of using dangerous magic in my campaigns. The idea that if you're going big, that you got to pay for it. But I would just caution and just say, whatever danger your magic can bring to the party, you probably want to foreshadow that as much as possible so that players' choices around whether or not to use it or how to use it are really meaningful. And if they do decide to go through it, that it's not a gotcha moment of it's a meaningful choice. It's a consequence of their own choices rather than a GM setting up a oops kind of deal.
That's really good. It'll feel weighty too, and that I love those moments where you're like, are you sure you want to do this? And everyone kind of knows. They're not sure exactly, but they kind of know.
Yeah, the players don't have to know what's going to happen. They just got to know something's going to happen.
Something bad.
Yeah. That's cool. That's great. I'll kind of switch it up a little bit and just throw out thinking outside the box for something sci-fi and mixing it with the Monster Hunter and actually harkening back to March of the Mechs in doing dangerous magic in a sci-fi setting of, like in mechs, that's basically some of the versions we were talking about where it's Monster Hunter. You go fight other mechs to destroy them and harvest the parts you want. But in Jacob's favorite type of setting of like diesel punk where you're trying to put it together, all these items are magical, if you will, and could break down at any second. If you push your mech too far, it's going to blow up. So you could totally have that dangerous magic feel in a sci-fi setting and include the Monster Hunter there as well, in that sense of collecting parts and collecting computer codes or AI stuff, and all of it's got to have some kind of risk if you push it too far, if you don't use it quite correctly. So it doesn't have to be strictly just magic. You can have that dangerous magic feel in a sci-fi setting as well. And of course, comment what you've done with dangerous magic. What's the worst thing that's ever happened to you or your players?
When you roll on a magic chart? Fair enough.
Yes.
To just build off of that, we talked about flesh mix too.
Yes. Oh, very true.
Talked about harvesting from creatures. Don't tell the drow. They might do some flesh warping.
That's good.
Graft on that thing that you got off of that creature.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
They already make driders.
Right, why not? Keep going.
All right, Levi.
Okay. Oh, I had it, and then I got caught in the Drider and thinking of interesting other body modifications.
He's down the body horror rabbit hole.
I was the body horror apologist last.
It's true.
Oh, okay. Oh, there we go. So in a setting where magic can be quite dangerous, I think it is important to show your players it going wrong. So that way they see what the danger is and they haven't just been told that there is a danger, but they have seen and they personally understand the stakes of messing with magic.
Yeah, I guess you could do that with something like a rod of fireballs or something like that. The bad guy tries to use it on him, it literally malfunctions and blows up in his face, and they'd be like, the rod survives because it's a magic item, but they're like, dude, this could wipe our entire party if we just use this.
Yeah.
So
there's that, like, someone, they meet someone who sold their soul to a devil for power, but they didn't realize that it was phrased slightly wrongly. So that way, when they become the servant in hell, they will have more power to serve their demon lord.
Yeah. Oh, we did a chat about that. We did a chat where we talked about contracts, devils in the details, and stuff like that. So go look back at that one. That was pretty fun. The idea of actually hiding devils in the details, that they watched you in the contract. But there you go.
Nice.
Interesting.
And I think for my final thought, I once read a story about a very wild, barbaric man who roped a priest to take with him on an adventure, forcibly, because he heard about this troll that was guarding, this beastly thing that was guarding massive treasure. And he himself was an irreverent man who disregarded the faith, but knew that the stories said that the troll would not harm, and the only thing to vanquish the troll was holy magic, that it would have to be a priest of some kind to do so. So he drags along this priest, takes him forcibly. They get there. They find the beastly thing, and they kill it. But within the man's mind, what about that priest now? The priest might take the treasure. And he turns to him with the same wild expression as the thing that was guarding it. And the priest runs. But the troll man, the man can't leave the treasure. Someone might come and get the treasure. Someone might come and get the treasure. He can't leave the treasure. And so he becomes the monster. Because that's all the monster was in the beginning, was a man corrupted by his greed. Why not let greed literally corrupt your characters in their dangerous use of magic? The things that they fight, every time they use magic, they give a piece of themselves. Until one day, they are the monsters that they once hunted. So that's my final thought.
Very nice.
That's pretty deep. That's pretty deep.
Okay.
Love it.
That's what we have for this time. Unless anybody has anything they want to insert real quick, that's what we've got for this time, travelers.
Comment below.
Comment below if you've ever corrupted your PCs into this nasty... All right.
Yes.
All right. As always... Oh, just a minute. Remember that you can support the Inn of Planar Crossroads, Avenue Studios, and Copper Dragon Games. And we'll throw in DM Tales there too. Yeah. We'll throw that in there because all of us have a Patreon, and I also have a Subscribestar, a local, and both myself and Avenue Studios have a locals. And then you can contact any of us directly. I'm sure we would talk about a way you could support that way. Help us reach those goals that we've set, and we appreciate it. As always, have a great day. God bless, and enjoy. Bye.
Bye.
This content was made possible by travelers and viewers like you. Thank you.
All right. We made it.
Lovely.
That's a month down, month worth of recording down.
Thank you,
deal.
guys.
That was
Thanks for
fun.
hanging out.
Yep.
Yeah, we have pretty solid time here.
You know what I'm looking at?
We do.
These, or I don't think I mentioned it when we were talking, Josh, but the magical mishaps I do, they're years old now. So this is going to come out sometime in the future, and there's going to be a magical mishaps that has you and Wesley in it, and you guys will be like, oh yeah, because it's going to be like 3 years probably, or 4 before it comes out again, and it's before these off of these recordings come out, and it's like, man, what is it gonna look like?
I know I have that style of deja vu from.
It's so fun though, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot. I don't even remember saying these things.
You forgot about reloading the fart gun.
Yes.
I thought it was
that's good.
both funny, but and not even really ironic. Just apropos that was one of the better performing magical mishaps. Talking about reloading the fart gun.
It's solid.
Is it? I think it's gaseous.
Yeah, well,
That's fair. That checks out.
fact check true. Oh, that's good.
The video gets too hot, it might become plasma.
Oh, let's hope not. That would hurt.
Plasma fart. That's a nightmare in the making.
That's what you get when you let
That sounds
an
like a creature
8-year-old
you can
boy. That's what you get when you let an 8-year-old boy describe the powers of their superhero.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or a parody of Doctor Who written by an 8-year-old.
Yeah, that sounds
Or
right.
just a Doctor
That
Who.
checks out.
Well,
Yeah. It's true. If you get the right species, plasma farts might just be. It's
No.
like, yeah, well, we left our spaceship, we visited you, and then, like, all these holes started appearing after I, like, ate dinner. I don't know what's happening.
Doesn't happen on our planet. Must be something wrong with y'all's.
yeah. There's somehow the actual basis for dragon myth. Wasn't coming from the front end, guys.
Or maybe their back end looks like a front end to us.
Yes.
Could be that.
And so
That's very Doctor Who.
they're butt heads, and it's just like yep.
I don't know what. It's got to be late. That's just cracking me up.
Oh, I don't know. Your
my
wife does
gosh.
juvenile humor too, so it's just a natural state
It's
for
also
you.
true. Yeah, I'm used to it. All right. Speaking of, I should crash, my friends. This has been great. Thank you.
Same here.
All right.
Insane.
Awesome.
In the membrane.
Nice.
That's taking it back.
Grr, where are you, grr? Type of thing.
All right. Night all.
Night.
Levi
night.
says night.
Good night, on grr.
See you later.